Traditional research study typically means that we have research sites and investigators at those sites who are really only able to either enroll patients into studies that are in close geographic proximity, that they can travel in and out of those sites for different visits, or they place significant burden on those patients, their families, their caregivers to travel a great distance in order to reach that site. Decentralized clinical trials simply means we're leveraging tools, technology, and processes that can help make research more accessible for more people. Decentralizing research simply means we can expand that radius. It gives us a way that no longer must a person be geographically linked to the research site, but that now those individuals can participate despite distance, improving both convenience and access, but hopefully improving equity as well. These are tools like using video for remote visits, using home health and visiting nurses, using different electronic strategies for collecting from informed consent to different types of digital measurements. Now, decentralizing research doesn't have to mean that we're leaving patients on their own and in the wild and creating distance in terms of oversight for the investigator over the patient. Decentralizing done right should mean people have more connectivity, more access to one another. A decentralized clinical trial is not one archetype. It is not one thing. It is not all or nothing. You can look at your study that you're designing and look at your schedule of events and start to identify opportunities that can create more location flexibility for the patients in your trial, even if those approaches can spare 1 or 2 visits. By using accessible technologies like video or electronic informed consent, those can be wins. Our guardrails for clinical research remain the same: patient safety and data integrity. And everything that we do that may be innovative or traditional always needs to conform within those guardrails. I think when we first started doing work in this field 17, 18 years ago, there were many that thought that this would be an approach limited to dermatology, limited to certain primary care indications, and yet today we're seeing these approaches penetrating into oncology trials, really into rare disease, into the full spectrum of molecules and trials across the portfolio. We can use these approaches when we have endpoints that are based on wet biomarkers, that are based on specimens like blood, urine, or otherwise, simply by collecting those specimens closer to the patient's home. Most trials that we're seeing today are more of a hybrid approach. Most of these applications we see do lean in more towards later phases of research, where we have increased confidence in the safety of a molecule. Also, our very early phase research can often be our most complex in terms of burdens of procedures. That being said, even phase 1 clinical trials are finding that some of the long-term safety follow-up can be done decentralized, and so we might need that patient to be in the clinic for the earliest dosing with that molecule, but for some of the follow-up visits, can we support those with less burden for those individuals? Certainly in phase 2, we see a good amount of adoption of these approaches, and as we move into larger populations with more confidence in the safety of the molecule, we certainly see even more adoption with these approaches. There's this risk today of a new digital divide, and we've talked in the past about the digital divide among patients and people, that perhaps some with underserved populations or underserved individuals might not have access to the same technology that others have. And I think we risk this among researchers today about a digital divide, that the approaches of decentralizing research are for the elite and the privileged. The researchers, I think, still find many of these tools hard to access. The regulators didn't change the rules, they simply encouraged the adoption of smart and thoughtful approaches. Now, as I mentioned, in Europe, we have seen decentralized trial recommendations. In the US, guidance document on decentralized trials is imminent. I think these decentralized methods that we're talking about today will just become normalized in parts of our accessible and expected research toolkit. But I think that there are some sponsored research studies that are using certain decentralized methods at global scale, whether in the US and Europe, whether China or Japan, whether Africa or Latin and South America. The Decentralized Trials Research Alliance, DTRA.org, has resources that they're increasingly posting and making available.